President Trump works with Republicans in Congress to avoid government shutdown as Democrats hold the White House hostage over wanting money for illegal immigrants and health care. Gold hits an all-time high as many Americans worry about the long-term viability of the US dollar based on Congress spending more and more money. New York is more and more looking like they will get a socialist mayor as Zohran Mamdani's numbers jump way up in the betting markets, and President Trump wins a $24 million settlement against YouTube, bringing his total settlement winnings to over $100 million. Thank you guys so much for liking and sharing these videos. Let's jump right in. A government shutdown is looming. After a White House meeting with President Trump yesterday, congressional leaders failed to reach a deal to keep the U.S. government funded beyond Wednesday, increasing a risk of lapse. The talks exposed deep partisan divide. Democrats, led by Chuck Schumer, demand that any short-term funding measures include extensions of Obamacare subsidies, protect against Medicaid cuts, and limit power on Trump shifting federal dollars. Chuck Schumer blasted Republicans' proposed clean continuing resolution, funding government operations through late November, for excluding Democrat priorities. Basically, you didn't give us what we want, so we're going to hold you hostage and then blame you when the government shuts down. Schumer also pointed to friction between Trump and GOP leaders such as Senator John Thune and Mike Johnson. Republicans pushed back, insisting they are united and blame Democrats 100% for the stalemate. In fact, Senate Majority Leader John Thune argued that the government shutdown was totally up to the Democrats because this bill has already been written and ready to move forward, but Democrats want money for Obamacare so that it can be affordable, even though it's not, without government subsidies. They also want money for illegal immigrants to have free health care and migrants to be able to get sex change operations on taxpayer dollar. Now, a 7 to 10 day extension was floated. However, Senate Republicans rejected the idea. Vice President J.D. Vance accused Democrats of holding America hostage over wanting to subsidize surging healthcare premiums and give money to illegal immigrants. Here's what President Trump had to say about the matter.
They are shutting it down. We're not shutting it down. We don't want it to shut down because we have the greatest period of time ever. I told you, we have $17 trillion being invested. So the last person that wants it shut down is us. Now, with that being said, we can do things during the shutdown that are irreversible, that are bad for them and irreversible by them, like cutting vast numbers of people out, cutting things that they like, cutting programs that they like. And you all know Russell Vought. He's become very popular recently because he can trim the budget to a level that you couldn't do any other way. So they're taking a risk by having a shutdown because of the shutdown, we can do things medically and other ways, including benefits. We can cut large numbers of people out. We don't want to do that, but we don't want fraud, waste, and abuse. And, we're cutting that. But they want to have illegal aliens come into our country and get massive health care at the cost to everybody else. And we don't have it. And that's, I would say, the number one reason that they want to strike is to get illegal immigrants health care. And, Gavin Newsom wants that too in California, and it's destroying California.
So if they do shut down, President Trump is prepared to lay off massive amounts of federal workers, as well as cut programs that are near and dear to Democrats, which he believes are just basically socialist programs. So he says he wants to avoid a shutdown and that he is being held hostage by Democrat demands. Now, the government will shut down tonight at 11:59 p.m. if they don't get enough votes to move forward. In a historic shakeup, according to The Guardian, more than 100,000 federal employees are scheduled to resign sometime today under President Trump's deferred resignation program. Part of the workforce reduction will ultimately cut about 275,000 jobs through buyouts, voluntary separation, and firings. It makes the largest single-year drop in federal workforce since World War II. Now, this is what a lot of people voted for. President Trump said, I will make the government smaller. We're bloated. We're blowing through taxpayer money. And so this is him keeping a promise. The department will hit major agencies, including the Department of Veteran Affairs, USDA, FEMA. Many workers cite fear, intimidation, burnout, and public vilification as the reason that they want to stop working for the government. The program, which provides $14.8 billion in paid administrative leave, is being sold by officials as a cost-cutting move that will ultimately save about $28 billion. Federal unions, including AFGE, have filed lawsuits against the president, saying these people deserve to keep their government job. Now, some workers describe the resignation as a matter of survival, saying that not knowing whether you will have a job today or tomorrow has led to mental health problems. All right, fresh off a settlement with Meta earlier this year, President Trump has secured another big tech win. YouTube has settled and agreed to pay President Trump $24.5 million for banning him on YouTube after Joe Biden took office. At the time, he was blamed for being the sole architect of the January 6th Capitol breach, but that has since been proven false. Now, under this, $22 million will be directed towards President Trump's ballroom that he wants to donate to the White House and to the American people. Let me go ahead and show what President Trump posted. It's him smiling and taking a $24 million check from Sanjay Gupta, who runs Google and YouTube. All right, now, this is scary for a lot of people. It looks like we are about to get our first socialist mayor over in New York City. Mayor Adams dropped out, as I told you last night, but now Zohran Mamdani, the self-proclaimed socialist who wants to tax white people, provide millions of dollars in trans surgery, hundreds of millions of dollars for illegals, and empty the prisons because he says violence is a false social construct. Well, now he has an 83% chance of winning, according to the betting markets. Andrew Cuomo, only 18%, and the Republican, Curtis Sliwa, a 2%. So honestly, a Republican never had a chance. All right, now I want to move over to some economic issues because there's a lot going on. And what we're about to find is the government is about to print massive amounts of money, which could hurt the US dollar and people's retirement accounts. Okay, so David, I want to get your thoughts on this. I know there's a lot of big stories going on in the news, but right now I'm very concerned because under President Biden and the Democrats, we saw annual spending get completely out of control. They're now spending over $7 trillion a year. Each party keeps saying, oh, we need more time to fix the problem, more time, more time. But then as soon as we get to a deadline, it's a continuing resolution. Now you have Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer trying to shut down the government so that he can get more money for Obamacare, because Obamacare without the government subsidizing is not Affordable Care Act. It's Unaffordable Care Act. And they want money for illegal immigrants. What are your thoughts on just trying to squeeze even more money into these budgets, which means they have to squeeze more money out of American citizens?
Right. So here's my thing about Chuck Schumer and the Democrat Party. You know, they want to bring in more illegals. They want to pay for everything, home, food, medical care, but they also want money for sex surgeries for minors and for illegal aliens to change the sex that they're currently are, for the whole transgender thing. They want $1 trillion for all of this. And if they can't have that $1 trillion to do and spend the way they want, they're the ones who are threatening, oh, we're going to shut down the government. Nothing's going to happen. And on the flip side, I love what Trump is doing. You know, he says, well, as soon as we close down, I'm going to lay off or I'm going to fire a whole lot of people. And it's his right to do so. Supreme Court says, hey, he is the the CEO, so to speak. He is the one who has total control. He makes the decisions. He signs the laws into effect. So, I support reducing the size of government. I'm hoping that we close down the government because, one, I don't want you sticking your hands into my pocket and giving Miss Lily Fuentes from another country a sex change to become a male. I don't want to be funding children here who are under the age of 21, funding their sex changes. If you want a sex change, wait till you're 21, or let your parents split the bill. Insurance companies are paying for this stuff. And again, we're all pooling our money together to cover our own personal health care. And so I'm hoping that neither party budges so that the government actually closes down, and then we can reduce the size of the government.
Yeah. Let me pull this up on the screen. So the US government is on pace to spend $7.6 trillion. 3.6 of that, David, has to be borrowed. So borrowed from other countries, it pulled out of thin air by Jerome Powell and others. This waters down the dollar. It makes it worse. And then this stuff gets basically written into future budgets, and they bankrupt the country faster and faster. We dig in, you can see there's not a lot of money coming in, and there's tremendous amounts of money coming out. President Trump, I genuinely believe, wants to figure out through tariffs and other means how to lower our tax bills. Democrats ran on the fact that we've got to tax you more. But what are your thoughts on this? This is completely unsustainable, this spending.
Well, we can't sustain it, and Democrats know it. But I think the reason why they want to keep spending is because they know at some point the house of cards is going to tumble. It's going to fall. Now, on that $3.6 trillion that we have to borrow, here's the dirty little secret. Two economists came out within just the last 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks, who have talked about that all of the central banks in every country no longer is carrying U.S. treasuries. They have more gold in their possessions than they do U.S. treasuries. Well, how do we cover our debt? We sell U.S. treasuries. Nations are now looking at the United States of America, and they're like, okay, these guys are at 37 trillion. They're already adding $1 trillion every 100 days to the debt. Can they fiscally truly manage that much of debt? And will they be able to manage it on a regular basis? Or are we going to lose our shirts holding all these treasury bills? So nations are not buying as much now for those treasury bills as they were. The last time we had this kind of dichotomy or this flip-flop from central banks having more gold than treasury bills was back in 1996. Prior to that, it hadn't happened. Now, look at what we're doing now. Nobody wants to buy our debt. Look at BRICS, for instance. BRICS is trying to develop a digital currency. There's a waiting line of approximately 140 nations that are lining up who want to be a part of that BRICS digital system, because one, now rogue nations will no longer be, we won't have control. We can't do sanctions. We can't sanction these rogue actors, these bad actors. We can't have control over them. But the BRICS digital currency is going to be based on gold. So the amount of gold that they have will be the amount of digital currency that will be allowed to be circulated. On the flip side, the US Democrats want that digital dollar. They want a central bank digital currency so that they can control the masses the way China controls their masses. But our digital currency is going to be backed by our debt. So far, we haven't defaulted on our debt, but we're getting close because nations are now worried that we can't pay that debt back.
Yeah. I would be worried. I would look at the United States and go, okay, you guys spend a lot of money, but your interest is higher than your military budget, and your military budget is bigger than the next 12 countries.
Yep.
That would be a major issue. Let me
Yeah.
go back with you on the illegal immigrants and the free health care. Listen to what Senator Hillary Clinton had to say about this and how far she has changed.
As to illegal aliens, we agree with you that we do not think the comprehensive health care benefits should be extended to those who are undocumented workers and illegal aliens. We do not want to do anything to encourage more illegal immigration into this country. We know now that too many people come in for medical care as it is. We certainly don't want them having the same benefits that American citizens are entitled to have.
Okay, so back when Democrats thought differently, Bill Clinton, he was removing illegal immigrants at a rate significantly higher than Donald J. Trump.
Same for Obama.
Same for Obama, right? People are one complaint is like, Trump, you're not doing enough. We got to get more people out. But just to go back to Hillary Clinton, what she said right there is we cannot give free health care to illegals.
Right.
It would be insulting to the American people. It's inappropriate, and it encourages them to come to America for free health care. Now it's their entire voting model.
Yes. Isn't that crazy? It is the entire voting model. Come here, we'll take care of you, vote for us, keep us in power, and we will always take care of you. But what they don't tell you is the pittance that they give you will never allow you to rise. It will always keep you down here. And what I said about China's currency, the digital currency, they have a social score that's attached to that digital currency. That's going to make its way here one day. Look at what the UK just announced over the weekend, that they are now moving to a mandatory digital ID. So once you have that digital ID, any camera anywhere sees you doing something that's not supportive, guess what? They know where you are, who you are, and they're coming for you. Those days are going to be here relatively soon, within the next 20 years. Why did they switch from not wanting the illegals to come to now wanting them to come? I'll tell you why. One, the reason why they want digital currency is because now they will have control over your finances and there'll be no privacy. Number two, there aren't enough Americans to work like slaves to service that debt. So if we bring in another 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 million illegals from other nations, now we've got even more people who will be enslaved to us, enslaved to that debt, and now they will have more people who can service the debt, and then we can make more. Look what Janet Yellen said just a year ago before the Senate Finance Banking Committee, that she and Joe Biden wanted to take the national debt from, I think, 35 trillion at that time to 50 trillion. Wrap your head around that $50 trillion worth of debt. What's the fallout once we can't make that payment? Robert Kiyosaki talks about the everything bubble, right? The markets crash, all of the markets crash, the banks crash, the central bank. What's it going to do? It's going to crash. We will have inflation like it will be nobody's business. We will be like back in, I forget what nation it was, what country, when they were rolling up with wheelbarrows full of cash just to buy milk and bread.
Zimbabwe.
That's what they're working on. That's what's coming. That's why they want the additional people here. They don't care if they're here to set off bombs and to destroy cities. That just gives them permission now to come in with the War Powers Act and then literally take control over those areas and then be in military force. Trump is coming in to stop crime, to give Americans a better place to live in these highly populated risk areas where there's a lot of crime and gun violence. And all of those areas, I think except for one, are all Democrat areas. And so they want this. It's not a secret anymore. This is what they want.
Yeah. Let me switch gears with you because monetary gold, you guys help me and my audience with gold. I'm a huge fan of gold. I'm just looking at this going, okay, Not long ago, I bought gold at $1,600 an ounce. It just
Oh.
cleared. It just cleared $3,800 an ounce.
Yep.
I keep thinking, oh, I need to buy more because it's going to continue to go up, and then it does. Then it got to 3,000. Then it got to 3,500. Now it's over $3,800. Do you guys anticipate gold and silver just continuing to go up if the members of Congress are just going to continue to abuse taxpayers and spend willy-nilly?
Absolutely. Well, see, now here's the thing. Here's another dirty little secret. The price of gold doesn't change. It's the devaluation of the dollar. So as the dollar gets less ability, less spending power with that dollar, as it continually declines in value, it buys less. So in fact, it's actually making it look like gold is going up when really it's just the dollar is going down. So for instance, since the beginning of the year, Bank of America came out, said that the dollar is on the verge of collapse. It's lost 10.7% of its value since January 1st, 2025, right? Then we've got the debt, we've got inflation, we've already had 2 banks close this year. We had 7 close under Biden's tenure. We've got all these market forces that are putting all this weight on the dollar. I mean, we're trying to devalue the dollar even more. And all of these things are pushing the value of the dollar down, which is actually making it look like the price of gold is going up. In reality, yes, gold is going up, but it's because the value of the dollar is going down. So I would say invest in gold, invest in silver. And here's another reason why. There are 11 states that have already enacted laws to allow gold and silver to be legal tender. And there's another 14 states that have pending legislation to make gold and silver legal tender. So why is that important to know, and why is that important? Well, if the dollar actually does collapse, well, guess what? There's going to be 25-ish states that will have already set up laws that will allow you to walk into the store and use gold and silver as legal tender to buy and to sell. That's important because in California could care less. Collapse the dollar, collapse everything. We'll come in, we'll be the saviors. We will control you and everything around you. We will have control. So during the Civil War, every state had its own currency, right? I would think if the dollar collapses, every state is going to probably issue their own currency. So gold is important because, one, if the markets crash, and let's say you got $100,000 in your savings, and let's say you've got $30,000 in gold. This is what happened during the 2008 debacle. The dollar lost a significant amount of its value, but gold continued to rise. And so even though people lost money in the stock market and in their paper assets, they actually still came out ahead because the value of gold had gone up significantly. So they really didn't lose anything. They actually gained, even though they took a huge hit in paper assets. The same thing will happen again when we have the next banking collapse or the next market collapse. That's going to be a huge deal. So gold will actually protect you when the dollar crashes. And then if we lose the dollar, several states will allow you to buy and sell using gold and silver.
Wow. Let me get you out on this because I looked this up this morning, and for me, this was really important. So that's why I wanted to share it. The average savings rate right now in America is 0.6%.
Oh.
It's pathetic. The average 5-year CD is around just over 4%, but you've got to lock your money up for 5 years.
For 5 years.
Meanwhile, gold is up over 25% this calendar year, which is crazy. Now, again, the government is just going to continue to spend, put us into debt. They want $1 trillion to subsidize free health care, transgender surgeries, illegal immigrants getting better health care than the rest of us. So what happens? Gold goes, we're not confident in this, and we go up. So 25% compared to 0.6 at the bank, or if you want to tie your money up for 5 years, around 4%. So Just absolutely crazy.
So-
David, I want to thank you for coming on and going through the news with me today. If people want to get more information, they can go to StephenLovesGold.com.
Yep.
I'll put that down below. They can also call 800-608-1770 to work with one of your people directly. I'm going to put that direct link down below so people can find it. We'll have you on again in the future. Thanks so much. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Absolutely. Thank you, Stephen. Nice talking to you.